Big win by the team that traveled from the real Death Valley to Clemson's Death Valley. They go in and win 17-10, and what I would consider kind of similar to the Ohio State-Texas game in terms of defenses being opportunistic, defenses playing really well. I think LSU's offense actually played really well considering where they were at. The story for me, though, is how LSU's defense looked, talking about it being a defensive slugfest, because we had tons of questions on that with all the transfers they've brought in and how they've not been very good these past couple years. But returners like Whit Weeks, Harold Perkins had great games. I thought Mansour Delane was fantastic on the outside. A.J. Halsey was good, too. They just kind of gave Clemson fits all game. Clemson could never get anything going consistently. It's starting with their run game. The run game was downright terrible. And I don't really ever trust a Dabo Sweeney Clemson team to just, well, I guess in this addition of them to like just bomb it downfield all game and get that to work, especially not against a team that has good corners anyway. So it was kind of uphill sledding from Clemson from the start in that sense. But thoughts? What did y'all see from LSU's defense? Were you all impressed? Any questions still with it?
I thought the defense was good.
Good.
Sorry, he's great. Sorry, I'm thinking more like I'm already trying to like say I want to talk about more about Clemson's offense.
No, talk about the defense, please.
Respect defense. Celebrate defense.
We'll get to Clemson's offense in a second. Let's keep it on the defense.
LSU's defense was very good to go into Death Valley, 1A Death Valley, A Death Valley, and shut down that offense in a situation where basically everything should be going Clemson's way, right? They've got the home field advantage. They've got everybody there. And to be able to shut that down, an offense that I thought was going to be fantastic, I picked Cade Klubnik to win the Heisman. I love the wide receivers they have there. I was really excited to see this offense. I was really expecting Clemson's offense to kind of cook LSU's defense because of the transfers and the fact that I wasn't expecting them to perform well due to lack of chemistry, it being so early, and you bring a bunch of new guys. But they worked well, they played together well, and they shut down that offense way more than I was expecting. So they played fantastic. Somebody else?
I thought Harold Perkins was the most impressive player the entire night. To come off an ACL tear, and he was flying around the field. We talked about it in the LSU preview that or it was either that or the game preview, that he was going to be playing essentially safety/linebacker position for LSU, and they kind of mixed and matched him all over the field. I'm really excited to see the PFF report on it to see where he played all of his snaps, because I wasn't able to log it throughout the game, but he was all over the field. His speed was the most impressive part. Is just to be that fast coming off an ACL tear was really impressive. He essentially wins the game on the final play. Cade has a lane. If it's anyone else, Cade probably scrambles past that guy and maybe picks up that first down on fourth down. But Harold comes from the opposite side of the field and chases him down with ease. And Cade never even gets really a step of an advantage over him. So I thought Harold was really, really good last night. And then obviously Delane was impressive throughout the entire night. The transfer from Virginia Tech, the Weeks brothers were really, really good. Both of them. Arguably West played better than Witt, you could argue. And so I thought that was really impressive. Defensively, to be able to slow down a running game that already had questions going in, but to basically shut them down entirely was really, really impressive for a team that was not necessarily great at stopping the run last year. And then to stop a Clemson offense with as many weapons as they have, and while Clemson lost probably their best weapon very, very early in the game, they played man coverage throughout much of the second half and were dominant in man coverage against receivers that are going to be draft picks in the future. And for me, I think that was extremely impressive. LSU has always kind of been known for having elite defensive back play. Think of Patrick Peterson, Tyrann Mathieu, Derek Stingley, more recently, Grant Delpit. List kind of goes on. Delane might become that for them very quickly, and they played like that last night to shut down the Clemson firepower throughout that entire game and really hold them to basically nothing. Make them look like they have looked in all of their SEC games as of late. That was really impressive to see from the LSU defense. And that defense is back. 2 sacks, 4 TFLs, 6 pass deflections, and a pick. They were really, really impressive the entire night.
Not necessarily what I wanted to see as a fan of a team that has to go play LSU in Death Valley later this season, but it is what
Death
happened.
Valley?
Yeah, sure. We can pivot now, though, Sanders. We can talk about Clemson's offense because clearly you have some thoughts there, so go in and give them.
Clemson's offense, especially in the run game, was awful. They posted some of the lowest totals and stats we have seen in the past several years. They rushed for a total of 31 yards, which was the lowest since 2023 when they lost in double overtime to Miami, and they averaged 1.6 yards per carry. I think the biggest takeaway is we talked about this in the preview show, and one of the questions I posed was, with the inexperience at running back, starting a freshman and then a wide receiver who converted to running back this year, is there a possibility the run game doesn't work and they're a one-dimensional offense? And the conclusion we came to was that their passing offense will be good enough that it won't matter. I think that's kind of what we said, and now looking back, it's kind of like, well, it does matter.
Yeah.
Because when your running game is this bad, which I don't think any of us expected it to be this bad, at least not at, and maybe this is because they played an elite defense who we'll find out in 6 weeks is the best defense in the country. That's a possibility. We don't know. But it was very bad, and I don't think any of us were expecting this. They scored 10 points, which last year, that's the fewest they've scored since last year's season opener against Georgia. So like you said earlier, it's just a continuous struggle against SEC teams. But I'm interested, how does Clemson bounce back? And, can they perform as a one-dimensional offense? Because that's kind of what they look like right now.
I mean, they're going to bounce back just fine. And do you want to go first? Because I'm going to talk for longer.
You're the Clemson fan, so I'll get my thoughts in. I think they're going to bounce back, and it's also they have the benefit of having a stretch of easier games, and they have a lot of time to get right. I think they're going to bounce back. I think their passing game will perform better. Talking about what we talked about in the preview of we think they can operate as a one-dimensional offense or a mostly one-dimensional offense. You have to be able to run the ball a little bit at some point.
Yeah.
I just don't think we expected LSU's defense to look this good this soon. So I think that is a huge part of it, but also expect the run game to come along a little bit as they work on it. I don't think that's something Dabo's just going to give up as a lost cause because of who he is. One, that's an important part of his offense and Garrett Riley's offense, but also Dabo's one of the most stubborn guys you'll probably ever meet. Think about him with the transfer portal. Yeah. So, if he thinks it can work, it's going to work. But I'm not really too worried about the long-term projection of this team, though it does hurt, and it does – my confidence does waver a little bit when they lose yet again, and it kind of looks like they just got outmatched yet again by an SEC team. I don't love that.
Yeah.
JP?
They're going to be fine. They were held to 3 points by Georgia last year. The next week they come out and play App State and scored 56 points in the first half. Yeah, it's App State. Big difference. But the offensive firepower is still there. They're not going to get wavered from a poor performance against LSU. Later on in the season, are they going to have to put up good numbers against good teams? Hell yeah. But they're not going to get wavered by this. The season is far from over. In fact, I think it's more it's a stupid take, but I think it helps them go ahead and getting this loss out of the way. As much as winning against LSU would have helped momentum, they now have to play with their pants on fire. They have to play really, really competitive. They can't lose another game outside of the South Carolina game this year because they need to make the ACC championship at least. And they're going to get those tests in these next few weeks. I kind of disagree with you're going to ease your competition. They play at Georgia Tech in 2 weeks. In 4 weeks, they play at North Carolina, which we'll see how they look tomorrow night. The following week, they'll be at Boston College. So I think they're going to get tested. They're going to get some early road tests, and I think it's going to help them a ton. The rushing attack was piss poor yesterday, sure. They ran for 1.7 yards per carry, but they're not going to rush for only 360 yards this season, which is what they're on pace for. They're going to be better rushing the football. They just could not get anything consistently going on the ground. People were saying, not people, a person were saying Adam Randall was looking positive. He ran for 16 yards. I don't know if you can necessarily say that yet. The touchdown run was nice, but that was a 1-yard carry where he's 6'2". He should out-physical the linebacker that's tackling him anyway. Their rushing attack is going to be better, but like they lost Antonio Williams really early in the first quarter. Their best receiver, Antonio Williams, doesn't have a catch the entire game, and I thought that hindered them a ton. He's their most consistent guy. He's the guy Kay trusts the most. He's the guy that's going to get the most consistently open. And TJ Moore and Bryant Wesco have all the talent in the world, but they're not quite there yet at creating separation consistently, especially in man coverage. And so that hindered them a ton throughout the game. I think they're going to be fine. They have the kind of roster that is built. While it doesn't have the same talent profile as Ohio State last year, they have that kind of roster that if they just get in to the playoff, they could go and win the championship. I don't think you can say they wouldn't, because the offensive firepower is there, I should say. But the defense was really, really impressive yesterday, and that is the biggest takeaway for me as a Tiger fan, is that Clemson defense is back. 1 sack, 8 TFLs, 5 pass deflections. We held Garrett Nussmeier, a top 10 pick in the draft, probably now. I think his stock is very quickly rising.
I have a take on him I'll get to in a minute, but continue.
And a good LSU offense. The ground game was working well. Their passing game was really, really good. You know, you have a touchdown taken off the board, which was not a touchdown. He didn't complete the process of a catch. If that's a catch, then Des Bryant caught it, which Des Bryant did catch it. But that
Des Bryant didn't catch it.
That was not a catch.
That's crazy, Jack.
And to hold that LSU offense to 17 points is a statement. You should be
Completely agree.
very happy that you held LSU to 17 points in the first game of the season. Like that's an impressive statement to make. And you held them to 17 points in a game where Nuss was so impressive. He handled pressure in his face so well the entire night. The adjustments at the line, he was picking apart Clemson's offense in a lot of spots. They would just spread out to an empty set and just play a numbers game, and they threw a little tight end screen 3 times in a row. The accuracy he had while rolling out of the pocket was really impressive. He found his safety valve a ton, especially when pressure got into his face. And the big thing for Nuss last night was he eliminated the common mistake he makes, which is throwing a bad pick in a bad spot. He did not do that last night, and Clemson still held them to 17 points. Nuss had only one game last year, one big game, where he did not throw an interception at a poor time, and that was the loss at Florida. He threw 1 versus USC, 1 versus South Carolina, 2 versus the school up north, 3 versus A&M, and 2 versus Alabama. He threw 0 against Clemson last night, and they still held him to 17 points. So for me, I think you got to take a huge positive out of that. Like, the defense was good enough to hold one of the best offenses in the SEC to 17 points.
In the country, I mean.
Which is, yeah. That's
Good
the same.
clarification.
I think that's the
Same
same point.
thing for you. It's not the same thing for everyone.
That is fair.
We got some SEC haters around these days. So
And I thought defensively, like, Hannafin was really impressive. He played way better than I thought he would. Sammy Brown and Wade Woodaz were as good as advertised. And then Avion Terrell looked really, really good. And I did not even mention out of those 4 guys, the 2 guys that are going to be top 20 draft picks in TJ Parker and Peter Woods, who were kind of shut down throughout the night. But the rest of the stars shined for Clemson. Penalties was a trouble, especially the one defensive back had a couple penalties that kind of cost Clemson in the key spots, especially in like some 3rd and goals to force 4th and goal. So that's kind of a question for him. I forgot his name. Let me pull up his name. He needs to play better.
Cromie's raising his hand in
this year.
Yeah, I think Chromie has a question. What is your question?
Fire
Chromie?
away, Chromie.
Ashton Hampton was his name. He had 3 penalties last night. That was not something we want to see the rest of the year, of course.
Absolutely not.
But that the defense was there, and I think that was impressive to hold that offense to 17 points in a night where I thought Garrett Nussmeier raised his stock a ton in the NFL draft. is enough to say that this Clemson team is not going anywhere.
Yeah, I agree the defense isn't going to have any issues. I wrote in my notes that regardless of what your reaction is to the Clemson's offensive performance, this team still has a crazy high floor because of the defense.
Yeah.
The offense could really never fully figure it out, and they'd be fine. They'd still win a lot of games. Talking about, though, them just like needing to get to the playoffs and talent profile can carry, I'm a little worried about that because, yet again, Cade Klubnik gets outdueled by his competitor on the other side. Garrett Nussmeier has a much better game, which there's a ton of factors for that. Better game plan from LSU, in my opinion. LSU's receivers did a better job of getting open. I even think about the one throw Cade had late in the game that was perfect back shoulder, and the receiver can't haul it in. But I just don't like to see that. And then my Garrett Nussmeier take is I think he's the best quarterback in the country.
Wow.
I'm not from a pro prospect standpoint. Like, I'm not saying I take him number 1 overall, but I just think he's so advanced. He doesn't have as many weaknesses as some of the other guys. I can trust him to consistently hit throws. He's not going to randomly miss a guy like some of these other people will. The moment last night was huge for me, seeing the moment not get too big for him, because like seeing him in the A&M game last year where he threw 3 picks, it seemed like the moment just got too big for him. But that was a huge statement, like you said, from him, in my opinion. Going and getting that done at Clemson is just massive.
You would still say like there are guys out there with like higher ceilings, right? Like Lenore Sellers, like
yeah, but like
right now Garrett Nussmeier is playing like the best quarterback in college
Sellers
football.
has played less ball. I think Garrett Nussmeier's like mental ability in the game in terms of like recognizing stuff pre-snap and just going through reads is just miles ahead of a lot of the other guys like a Lenore Sellers or something like that.
That's fair.
He doesn't have the physical traits of Lenore Sellers, nowhere close.
He should be a top 10 pick right now. I had him as a middle first in my preseason. Immediately in that game, like, he jumps up to a top 10 pick. Now he'll just have to sustain that. I want him. I want it, not that he needs to throw 0 interceptions this year, but I want to see him sustain the lack of making mistakes. Herb Street mentioned it like 12 times throughout the broadcast of like, this was something that hindered him last year, which is true. Interceptions, especially in poor spots. He's just got to sustain that this year, and I think he easily gets himself in the top 10.
It was a fantastic performance.
I don't want him in black and gold, though. I want Lenore's.
That's fair.